Hello and welcome back to Ion Radio and our Road to AdeptiCon series. Today, we will be visiting our judges panel for the 2023 Star Wars Armada World Championship at AdeptiCon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ken, and tonight I have the privilege to be hosting the judges on the channel. With me tonight, I have Derek, also known as Karnak. I have Dennis, Stuart, also known as Stu Bucket, and Simon, known as Captain Awesomer. First of all, huge thank you to all of you for joining me and giving us an opportunity to not only announce that you guys are the judges for the World Championship at AdeptiCon, but give everyone an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself as well. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go around the room and let you guys introduce yourself. And I'm very curious to know what you guys are most excited about in being a judge at AdeptiCon. So Derek, let's start with you.
Sure thing. A lot of people are likely very familiar with my face, voice, and otherwise. I am leading up the tournament for Star Wars Armada at AdeptiCon, as well as kind of helping be a manager overall for Atomic Mass Games. So for judging, you may not see me doing too much in terms of judge calls. Dennis is going to be my head judge at that event, but you're going to see that we're all going to be very active in making sure that we are structuring events, walking the floor, being involved with players. For myself, for Armada, it's just such an excitement to be able to have a Worlds again, come back, be able to help put this together. And I don't know what other questions you just asked me, but for me, that I feel like I've talked enough. I'll move it along.
Let's move on to Stu Bucket. How are you doing? And welcome to the channel. And of course, what are you excited about being a judge at AdeptiCon?
Well, this is super exciting for me. This is great because I don't think anyone in Armada World knows my face or my name. So, hello, world. If you know my Discord handle, you may know me from the Armada Discord. That's what makes me most excited about AdeptiCon. Man, it's just the chance to meet everybody and see all the crazy fleets that people are bringing for this. I'm just excited to see the amazing variety in skill and in the different fleets that people are bringing. So, I think it's going to be a blast.
Excellent. So, Captain Awesomer, welcome to the program. And of course, what are you looking forward to and most excited about being a judge at AdeptiCon?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just like Stu Bucket, I don't think people know my face, or probably most of the field at AdeptiCon don't know my face. I'll echo what Stu Bucket said as far as what's exciting to me is just seeing the skill of the players there. I'm also really excited seeing how the different metas will clash, because I've seen on some American Discords, people are discarding some fleets that are getting posted, and then you look at how those fleets perform maybe in Europe, and they are doing consistently well. So I'm excited to see, we know there's not really that much of a meta right now. I'm excited to see what comes from Europe to the United States and what surprises we can get with those arguably unusual fleets that are going to meet.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what all the fleets we have at AdeptiCon are going to be myself. We've got a lot of players that are going to be in the field from both Last Chance and Worlds, so and in the Worlds proper, I should say. So I'm really excited to see that. Dennis, you are our head judge, I believe, for AdeptiCon. What are you looking forward to and most excited about being a judge?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of have to second what Stuart and Simon said. Just seeing what people bring and how the meta has changed, especially with rapid reinforcements. This will. I know that there have been tournaments with that already, but I haven't really been keeping track with it. And I'm really excited to see what people will do, and presumably at Worlds it'll be the culmination of that too. So hopefully we'll get the best of the best, or we will, I should say, get the best of the best. And beyond that, I'm just excited to do it. Again, as some of you watching may know, I was there last year helping Derek out. I'm just happy to be doing it again. It was a lot of fun last year, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun this year too.
Well, I know a lot of people enjoyed being at AdeptiCon last year, especially after the pandemic where there was nothing for a couple of years. So definitely welcome back to judging at AdeptiCon. And we'll be looking forward to seeing all the fun calls everyone here is going to wind up making. So what I want to go ahead, Derek.
I just want to add one point to that. For some of you that, like for a lot of them, my judges introducing themselves, you may not have met, may not have heard of. I have spent plenty of time with all these individuals, either in person or online, spoken with them, bantered back and forth with. I trust all of them to make as good of ruling or as good of any ruling that they make on par with anything that I would do. I have that much confidence in all of them. So if I had that much confidence in these judges, I hope the rest of the player base acknowledges that they're here because I'm confident in them and that I back them 100% in anything they're going to do at World. So please treat them with the same courtesy that some players, would treat me. So please listen to the judges during Armada.
Karnak, you're going to make me blush. I'm incredibly flattered.
No pressure, guys. None whatsoever. You have that Karnak bar to now live up to. So I think a great opportunity now we have is, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about the judging and what you're excited about, let's do a little bit of a deep dive in each one of you and talk about how you came to play Armada, and then why kind of what got you into becoming a TO and a judge. So Stu Bucket, let's start with you.
Okay, so my journey to Armada started probably like many of you guys, in that I walked into a store because I love to play board games, my favorite board game stores, and I saw a Star Destroyer on the shelf, and man, that was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I many readings on the internet, on the old FFG forums, and on Can I Get Your Ship Out articles, and on Discord, and on Ion Radio battle reports. I was like, man, I got to get into this. My first tournament was an 800-point tournament in Salt Lake City, where I got absolutely steamrolled by somebody who was running 3 interdictors and 3 onagers. So, but ever since then, I've had a variety of experiences playing Armada. I've been able to run some of my own tournaments that have been a huge blast, and play where I live now in New England. And I'm just super excited to continue playing Armada. It's going to be great.
Outstanding. Now, you joined then right before the pandemic kind of hit. If the onagers were coming out about that time, that'd be kind of what I'd guess.
Yeah, I started purchasing spaceships well before I actually started playing any games. And my first competitive game was that 800-point tournament where the onagers and the other guy, there were 3 of us at this tournament. It was very lightly attended, but it was me with everything I had to my name, because barely mustered up 800 points. The other guy with some onagers and some interdictors, and then the third guy was running 3 Starhawks. So they were very excited about the new wave, and it was a blast, ton of fun.
Outstanding. Well, again, welcome, Simon, Captain Awesomer. Your turn. What are you kind of? What got you into Armada, and how did you get here?
So my journey starts a bit earlier than Stuart's. I actually looked it up when was my first purchase of Armada before coming here, and it was in September 2016, so just after Wave 4. I was playing Imperial Assault with a bunch of friends, and saw an article about Armada online, and sort of fell in. Armada is the first war game I've played. And sort of fell in love with the whole idea of the command dials, and you shoot before you move and you have to move. And to me, that appealed to me because you have to move. So there's a strategic thinking there. And I got in with a buddy of mine who I played Rebel at first. He played Empire. And then we started playing tournaments together. You've probably seen him on Discord as Dad Vader. So he's one of my best buddies. And then we started our plastic crack addiction together, and we did our first tournament together. We traveled to some regionals in Canada, and we've been playing ever since. I started doing some small tournaments when we could during the pandemic. So when large events were not allowed, but we could do some smaller gatherings. And then the judging part, just before the pandemic, the 2019 Canadian Nationals were supposed to be in Montreal, and I was asked to judge that. But apparently there was a pandemic, and that all of that was canceled. So last year, when we started trying to get a world qualifier in Canada, I was asked to sort of pick up where we had left off. So be judge/TO. That's actually where I met Derek at the St. Lawrence Open, or SLO. And that's my instance. And I've TO'd some small local tourneys, and that's basically my path as a judge, TO, and player.
Dennis, we haven't heard from you yet on this, so let's ask you the same questions. How'd you get into Armada and judging and all the rest of that?
Well, so as for how I got into Armada, I had started playing tabletop games, I think in 2016, though not Armada. I honestly can't remember what year or under what circumstances I bought. The starter set was the first thing I bought. I do remember that, but I can't remember when or why. Just showed up in my collection one day, I suppose. And I do remember I had bought it, and then I sat on it for a year, not realizing that other people actually played this game near me. And then when I found that, I actually started playing it for real, and it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, Simon kind of touched on this with the shooting, then the moving was fantastic. The movement system in general, and especially the defense tokens, are just a fantastic way to do a defensive system, unlike how some other games might do it. And it was a lot of fun, and I was hooked pretty much instantly. And as for how I got into judging, Derek, for last year at AdeptiCon, screamed into the void, "Please help. I need some help for AdeptiCon." And I responded, and he picked me for some reason. So as for why, I still haven't figured that one out. I guess he would know more about that than I would. But start of this year, or I guess it was before that, he's like, "Hey, do you want to do it again?" And I said yes, and here we are.
That's great. And last but not least, Derek, I'm going to ask the same questions of you. Armada start and how you kind of got into being a TO.
Sure. So to how I started was 2017, was like, I love Star Wars, and I was looking at the time at X-Wing. I'm like, this doesn't really seem like the game I really want to play. I want like capital ships. And somebody's like, well, why don't you try Armada? I'm like, what is an Armada? And did my research, compared them both between X-Wing and Armada. I'm like, what does it seem like I'm going to have the most fun to play? I'm really only going to have time to dedicate to do one. And then I picked Armada, only to find out that nobody in my area plays Armada. Everyone was playing X-Wing, and I made a terrible decision for local play. But that's okay. I still feel like I made a good decision at the end of all this road. So that's how I got into it. I actually had only played for maybe 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. And I was like, I want to go to a convention and go to a tournament. What's the next one? Oh, Nova Open. I've never been across the country before on an airplane to play a tabletop game, but let's go. And so I went. That was my first competitive tournament environment. Placed dead last the entire time and had so much fun. And that's what really got me hooked into Armada. The issue is that when I would go play like locally, is I would come across somebody who would say, oh yeah, this is the rule of how you do that. And it's concentrate fire. I'm like, oh, that's weird. That doesn't seem like that's how that works. But okay, you're the veteran player. I'll trust you. And then like 2 weeks later, I'd be at a different place playing and like, no, that person's wrong. This is actually how this works. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird that there's some different interpretations for this rule. Is there like a ruling for this anywhere? They're like, nope, there's been no rulings for it. I'm like, boy, that seems odd. And then I went to another tournament a couple weeks later, and a third person was like, no, both of those guys are wrong. This is actually how you play. I'm like, it almost drove me away from the game because it seemed like interpretations were so varied. And so as I got more involved in like the Discords and online communities, it's like, it just seems like somebody, like Fantasy Flight Games could have made like some videos or something that have gone over this. And Dre's Night at the time was like, well, why don't you make some? I'm like, I will. And that's kind of where I really got started into my channel and judging and wanting to just put out what is, the correct interpretation of like how things are played. And it was okay if people disagreed with me, just do it from the rule book and not just because like, well, this is how it's done in another game or things of that nature. So I was very happy that I had some really good teachers, and with Dreas Nida and with Ian Cross, who was a former world's judge, and they just really helped me deep dive into the rule book. And that's just where I really got my passion and really found that that's what I found enjoyable. And I do want to say for the other judges, especially for Simon, is sometimes meeting people for these tournaments, it may be the first time. It doesn't usually take very long to pick up on the fact of somebody's like, yeah, they know what they're talking about. They're able to articulate themselves, argue reasonably, take time to look at the rule book. And so at the times where, yes, I've screamed into the void, help, where Dennis came out and I asked him, I have a set of questions that I will ask people to actually see what's your level of knowledge. It's okay if you're a brand new player. Any brand new player can be a judge, because 99% of the judge calls you're going to get at a table is this in range or not? You're not going to get some deep dive question of like, if Moff Jerjerrod sets the speed at this for a ship, but then does this and then does that 3 speeds later, what is his current speed for his active? It's like, you're not going to get questions like that. And if you are, then come talk to me about that kind of stuff. But they were all able, from my observations, were able to make correct rulings on the spot with very basic common knowledge things like concentrate fire, which that is just something continues to be misplayed to this day. And I know I've been talking a bit, but just I have such a passion for Armada, and I love Armada, and I love sharing the judging aspect with additional individuals, because it's definitely, as I think you mentioned before, that just judges don't get some recognition. And it's just important to know that we're passionate as well about the game, and we want to have just as good as a time, even if we're not playing. So I'll wrap up my segment there.
I think one of the best things that's come out of this quick little Q&A, just getting an intro on each one of you and how you got in Armada and a little bit on your judging, is, again, everyone gets to see this side of you guys, because we're always interacting with the players, right? And now we can see how the players, when they become the judges, how they look at things. And you're right, I'm sure almost every single judge call is going to be, is this within arc? Do I have line of sight? And I'll even be the first one to admit that John and I, when we were playing one of our most recent matches recording, we actually called for a judge and no one stopped by. So you guys are very valuable to this game. So I, for one, on behalf of all Armada players, thank you so much for the work you guys do, because it is a difficult job. And as a player and a spectator, really appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, I just want to give a quick shout out to thank you, Atomic Mass Games, for giving all of us the opportunity to come to Worlds and AdeptiCon for this opportunity. I mean, it wouldn't be happening if AdeptiCon and Atomic Mass Games didn't reach out and ask for some help, and we're able to answer that.
All right, so now we're going to get to the fun part of the episode today, and we're going to go to our judges panel. So I'm going to let any one of you guys jump in for various different questions that I'm going to ask. And of course, the first one I'm going to ask should be the one that I think all of the viewers and listeners are going to get a kick out of. And that is, even at this level of heightened play, because we're going to deal with the cream of the crop of Armada players, what rule or rules do you still expect are going to be played wrong? And I know, Derek, you've already touched on concentrate fire, so I'm going to make you choose a different one if you want to answer. So who wants to start?
I actually have a weird esoteric one that's been on my mind for a while, if you don't mind. When, and Derek, we talked about this one at last AdeptiCon, actually, so you might know what this one is. A situation came up. I went to Derek. He said, yeah, this comes up like once a tournament, and I'll be excited to see when it comes up this time. But in some specific scenarios, when you're measuring line of sight between ships from dot to dot, if you define the line to have some thickness, that can actually change whether or not it crosses over the arc lines or not. And one thing that most people don't know is that the line technically is infinitely thin and goes through the center of the dot to the center of the dot. And part of the reason why this is such a thing for me is that this was not something that I knew. I didn't know where it was documented. Derek did show me the documentation, but it wasn't apparent in the rulebook. And forever when I was playing, it would almost always come up for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's just the way I play. It just seems to come up all the time. And it bothered me because I have to make these calls based on like, oh, well, if you pretend the line has a thickness, then it cry, and it seems to be something that comes up in tournaments quite frequently as well. Not even to any fault of the people, because it's just this weird, like, yeah, the line is technically infinitely thin, and who knows that? Me and Derek, I guess. And yeah, it's just like I said, it's something that will probably come up at this next coming AdeptiCon.
I can
You
jump
got it.
in.
You got it, Simon.
All right. I'll go in a different direction. Well, somewhat different direction. I'll go with the one that's been asked 3 times at SLO, and it's the timing of Ahsoka Tano, the rebel officer, where, I mean, I think people just sort of summarize Ahsoka as you can trigger her anytime. And like people running, say, a Starhawk will have a token and then activate their ship. And most players, when they activate, they flip the dial. But at that point, you need to decide, do you token your dial or do you use it? And most people will say, well, I'll use Ahsoka then to flip whatever squadron token I add to an engineering, but you can't. You need to activate your ship, declare that you're activating your ship, not flip your dial. Change whatever token via Ahsoka, and then flip your dial, which is like one of the slimmest timing windows, except for after gathering dice for thermal shields. But I expect a lot of people to get it wrong. It's kind of funny because it's like no information can possibly be gathered between those, like activating your ship and revealing your command dial. But we had to rule it 3 times at SLO. I expect it will have to rule it a bunch more at AdeptiCon.
I mean, with 4 days of AdeptiCon, it'll be at least 6 times, I'm guessing. Stu, what about you?
So my answer is a little, admittedly, more ubiquitous than the ones that you guys picked. Maybe not as ubiquitous as Concentrate Fire. That thing's everywhere. But Demolisher and Intel Officer have been around since the beginnings of Armada. And even with the recent errata, I still see people trying to with their Demolisher shoot and then move, which is a no-go, and missing that timing on Intel Officer. It's right after you roll the dice. You can't goof around with them before you decide to Intel Officer. And I think, like you said, it's a 4-day tourney. There's people who are going to be very tired. I will likely be one of them. And I think with fatigue and the ubiquitousness of those cards, my money is that at some point we're going to have to make a ruling on Intel Officer and Demolisher. So,
actually, I got another one. It's not necessarily a rules mistake, but I look forward to people forgetting about Jedi Hostage. Both people bringing Jedi Hostage, because it's after you've been declared as the defender. And people trying to walk back, like, oh, no, I'm obviously not going to attack whatever has Jedi Hostage, but you've already declared it. I'm looking forward to that also. I think it's also a slim timing window.
Derek, you have any fun ones?
Yeah, so that's an interesting point Simon brought up, is that in Armada now is once you declare an attack, you have to go follow through with the attack. There's no take backs in Armada. This is due because some upgrade cards were released with Clone Wars that kind of made that have to happen in order for some of these things to work. But for something that, for me, what are some rule stuff at events that are going to come up? Well, it has nothing to do with Last Chance Qualifier or the World Championship Tournament. I feel like I'm going to be called over all the time to answer rules questions for the Summa of all things events that we're going to be running. I feel like I'm going to be, because it's like, how does this work? What is this? Why does this work and not this? And it's like, so nonstop questions about Summa events, is I feel like where I am going to have to personally be like, well, as somebody that had a hand in its development, let me tell you what the intent was behind some of these rules. Because I've had some people and not in a malicious way, just being like, well, why does it say this? But it's like this. I'm like, look, something had to give in order for some stuff to work and to be new and exciting. It's beer and pretzels. Don't think too deep into it. Just have a good time is what I've just been trying to convey.
Completely forgot that we're going to have SUMA events. And yeah, you're probably right. And I'm sure at least 3 times you will be asked, wait a minute, when can I move the SUMA and what happens when no one has control?
More times than 3 for the entirety of Adepticon.
How about 3 times per SUMA session? We'll give you that.
Yes, there we go. That's probably an accurate number.
All right. So next question. What do you guys as judges believe the players should know about you guys? If there's anything particular that you think is an important, whether it's something about your judging experience or it's something about how players maybe sometimes interact with judges, or maybe you have a story when you were a player interacting with a judge that might be kind of fun to bring up.
I would just say we don't hate you. It's we're just trying to make sure the game runs correctly. And sometimes that means that it is to your disadvantage, but that's not our, that's not the point. We're not trying to screw over anyone in particular. It's just, we got to make the call in the correct way. And sometimes that will make someone unhappy, and that's, not our intention at all.
I know for me as a player, one of the things that I have found invaluable with judges is that you guys are there to make sure everyone has a good time, not necessarily to follow the rules. Clearly you have to do that, but really you guys want to keep the games going and everyone having a good time and be able to play with their plastic spaceships. And I think that fine line between judging on rules or, is this shot in arc or whatnot, and allowing the players to have fun is probably one of the biggest challenges you guys face. So, hopefully you guys are up for the challenge. I'm sure you are. And I think it's going to be a long, grueling 4 days for everyone, players and judges alike. So since we're talking about 4 days, back open to all of you, once again, the whole panel, what are your expectations for the full 4 days in terms of whether it's your personal expectations, your hopes while judging, or just what happens with the players?
Pain. The pain is my expectation, especially the 4th or 5th or however many days I'll be there. But I think it's the first time I go to AdeptiCon. I'm just looking forward to seeing such a high level tournament. And I think, you just touched on it. We want everybody to have fun. We want everything to run smoothly. So we're not there to be mean to anybody. We're just there to make sure that everybody can play to the best of their abilities, have the less distractions, and be focused on their games. So really looking forward to seeing the atmosphere, feeling the atmosphere, and just as an Armada player, because I'm not only a judge, seeing who gets to the top tables, who survives to day 3, who gets out of LCQ, all these. As a player, we're players at heart too. So anything you as a viewer, as a player of Armada is excited about, we are also excited about seeing, and we'll be there firsthand to see it. So really excited about that.
I'll throw in, maybe this makes me a bit of a heretic on the judges panel, but I am not going to Adepticon for my love of judging. I am going for my love of playing this game, and judging is the way that I can be the most involved spectator as possible. The skill, the interest of watching people. I will get to walk from table to table and see incredible moves and brilliant plays. And so something that if people should know about me then is that I am just as excited to watch these games and comment, oh, wow, that was awesome, as you are to be playing them. And I will do so with a smile. I will be excited. And then I will probably tell you missed a timing of some sort if you ask, but that's not important. The important part is that I am so stoked to be there because it's going to be a blast.
For myself, again, just because I have so much experience, I probably will talk too much, but I'll try to limit myself. And I've shared some of this experience before. As is pointed out by everyone, we're there to have just as much fun as you watching you blow each other up as we are guessing and talking to ourselves about who's going to win, who's not going to win. We're impartial third parties. The biggest point you probably, I say you, I mean, for all of us, emotions run high, especially if you started Thursday, you played 4 rounds of Armada, you got through day 1 of 4 rounds of Armada, just to be congratulated with another, or I say 4 days, but 4 rounds to another 4 rounds on Saturday. And by the end of that point, your patience will be thin. Your patience with opponents who make mistakes or intentionally or not gets locked in decision paralysis about what choice to make or any of that. You may feel like you're being slighted by your time. As with all competitive events, time is very important. I can only stress and ask players, please come with fleets that you are prepared to play for 4 straight days. It is tough. It's hard on your feet. Sit down all the time. Sit down. Please be sitting down all the time. Don't stand the entire time. If you are, bring like 5 yoga mats to stand on. You do not understand the amount of physical exertion these events are going to take from you, not because you're moving around actively all the time. It's going to be hot in those halls. Drink water constantly all the time. Do not stop drinking water. You may think like, well, I don't want to take a bathroom break and lose time. Trust me, it's worth it. You're going to keep your brain moisturized so they can keep thinking. The mental drain is huge, especially with food. Don't rely that you can just run for a quick minute to go grab something. Bring snacks, bring protein bars. Things are going to help you out. The point I'm leading to is that during this event, it will happen. It has happened every single time for major tournaments like this, where 2 players, for whatever reason, are going to get into a not nice argument with each other. And in that point, it is important that you, one or both of you, immediately recognize that, you know what, it seems like there's some tension here, whether, again, that's intentional or unintentional. Call a judge. Immediately let us know. It's like, I feel, you don't even have to like do it with the other person present. You can be like, I just need to talk to a judge real quick about something. This is not a reflection on you. I need to just let them know something. Go to a judge and be like, I'm feeling the pressure of this game. My opponent's doing stuff that I'm not liking, or my opponent is doing things that I think are breaking the rules. Can you just watch our table some more? Yes. As a judge, there's a reason why there's 4 of us. We can definitely have somebody, we can't just stand there over your table the entire time watching your game. That's just not, unfortunately, the manpower we have. But that doesn't mean that somebody we can converse amongst ourselves to keep somebody closer, to keep an eye on that table. Or in general, if you both are just at each other's throats, call a judge and ask for time extension. We will grant it to you. So, a huge point of all this is like the slow play and the frustrations. But if you feel like you're at a point where you're just so upset and you're so mad, you just need 2 minutes just to go take a quick walk outside, get some fresh air, and come back in. We will give you a time extension. We are not going to punish you guys for standing there being like hyping up this tension and saying, oh, there's nothing we can do about it, because that's totally a wrong viewpoint to have as a judge and somebody running that event. It's the answer to that should be, yes, we can give you a few minutes. You can go run outside and come back in. Now, is that fair to the rest of the players in that building who are playing to that time frame and then also potentially have to wait a few minutes more to start their next round? Absolutely, it's unfair to them. But you know what? I would rather avoid a physical confrontation and give people a moment to gather themselves to come back in. And you'd be surprised at the few opportunities where I've given that to people, where they've gone outside and have come back a few minutes later, they still end up finishing before anybody else, just because they had that moment to de-stress and then lose that anxiety and then refocus on gameplay. So to get into a personal point about myself is personality wise, I'm a problem solver and I'm willing to work with people. But that said is I don't take crap. If you disagree with something and I said, you know what, I may be wrong in the moment right now, I apologize, but this is the decision I'm going to go with, and I'm going to go research and find out. If I made a mistake, I will come back and apologize to you. But that right now in the middle of a tournament is not the time for you to talk crap to me. I'm not going to stand there and take it. I don't expect that from the players. It's extremely rare to have something like that happen. But if it does, just know that I don't stand for it, and I will quickly just escalate to like, please continue to argue with me. I will escalate that to a warning and further. So there's some things about myself.
That's actually kind of a great segue into one of the questions that kind of came up as we were discussing was what advice do we have for the players? Because they're going to, in some cases, maybe be playing 4 full days. I would personally love to see someone from LCQ make it to day 3. I really would.
So to quickly touch on that point you just brought up, so there may or may not be an extra special something for somebody who manages to accomplish making it from LCQ through the furthest that they can get. And that's all I'll mention for that.
You heard it here first, guys. So you really want, if you're in the LCQ, you want to do well. And then, hey, go talk to Derek when you get as far as you can. And we'll see what happens and what nifty whatever you might get. So the rest of our judges, Derek's already kind of told us his advice to players. Do the rest of you guys have any other advice or thoughts in terms of this group of Armada players that are going to be going through 3 or 4 grueling days?
I think the standard, make sure you sit, as Derek touched on it, but sit as often as you can. I will actually go against Derek's advice of bringing 5 yoga mats. I think there's too much risk of bumping the table or falling on the table, even worse. So don't do that. One is fine. One is okay. The one advice I'd give it, I guess, not be considerate to the other player, but everybody's going to make a mistake at some point, and it's the highest level of tournament. So your opponent is rightly, or you're absolutely right to not allow your opponent to fix that mistake. But everybody's going to make some. If it happens to you, roll with it. Don't get keep in your headspace in your game. And also a bit of leniency. As I mentioned, everybody plays the way they play. I if stars align, I've practiced for months, maybe I could get an invite to Worlds, but I'm not the level of player that's going to be there. But my standpoint is always, if no new information was gained, I do not care that you fix whatever you forgot, what timing window you forgot, things of the sort. And I think it goes a long way into making the game a lot more amicable, even if you're playing top table at a tournament. I understand at Worlds, if you're top table last round, maybe there's no leeway there because you're playing for the highest of stakes. But I think as just a general attitude, we all like playing a game. We all hate making mistakes, and it's part of the game. But it's a bit of leniency. And if there's no leniency, which may happen, just roll with it. You are not going to be playing perfectly for 15 games in a row or 12 games in a row. That's just to be expected. But I also expect that advice to sort of the caliber of players that are going to be there know this. But I think it's good to remind it also. It's a game we love, and don't get too distracted by the unfortunate mistakes you're going to make or the crazy high rolls your opponent is going to make against your ships.
So probably a good thing I'm not bringing Moralo, 2 lambdas, and a bunch of red dice chips, right? So,
hey, if you want to make a ton of mistakes, that's the best way to do it.
I think kind of another thing that on similar to what Simon was saying is that I know this is kind of cliche, but have fun. You're in some cases going to be flying from the other side of the planet, and I mean, I'm sure some people are local too, but still, yes, it's a tournament. Yes, there's a shiny prize, which may or may not be metaphorical at the end. But even having said that, it's still important that, you got to have fun with it. And I feel like most people are really good about that. I should say all. I don't think I've actually met anybody who struggles to have fun playing Armada, to be honest. But I just want to reiterate that the prize is secondary, I think, to just having an opportunity to play the game in a hyper competitive and great setting like Adepticon is.
Definitely agree there. Everyone should have fun while playing Armada. That's kind of the point, right? We're playing a game with plastic spaceships, which for those of us old enough, this is what we've been wanting to do since we were 4 years old. And for those that aren't old enough, you've probably been wanting to do this since you were 4 years old also. So this year, we're going to do something a little different with Adepticon in the fact that Ion Radio is going to be streaming one of the tables for all 15 matches, I think it is, throughout the entire 4-day tournament. So now, because, again, I want to point out, Ion Radio will essentially be kind of a glorified spectator. We are not going to be judging or making any calls on anything. So if you need something, call a judge. But do you guys have any suggestions for players if they're on stream in terms of, maybe a different level of play style they have to consider, because you're going to be under a microscope, quite literally?
Don't let it get to you. Like, people are going to call you out on that thing you did wrong or that thing you forgot. A, you're not going to know in the moment. B, hopefully you can forget that there's a camera and a microphone somewhere looking at you. And then if you're not sure you can handle seeing like comments, don't watch the playback. Like, don't rewatch your game. It's fine. You're never gonna know what was being said about you. Just, it's a game like any other. I think I've been in this kind of position in my professional career, like being in the spotlight, and just forget there's a spotlight. It's for other people to enjoy. Just do your thing and it's going to be fine.
That's actually some great advice. When I go back to almost all of the battle reports that we've done on Ion Radio, I think I've watched 2, because I don't want to go back and see the mistakes that I know I've already made. But yeah, definitely great advice. Anyone else? That was a fun question, just popped into my head as we were kind of talking. It wasn't on the original script at all, so apologies for throwing one at you guys.
No, it's all right.
I have the opposite piece of advice from Simon, which maybe this is valuable for some people, maybe it's not, but I think there is definitely something to kind of embracing the fact that, like, yeah, I am on TV right now because I'm cool and I'm going to talk about it and we're going to have a lot of fun with this. I mean, I think there's a world where you can even needle your opponent and say, hey man, people saw that, and kind of have some fun with it. Obviously not being like rude or antagonistic or things like that, but a little bit of mild jiving, I think it could be a fun way to let off some of the pressure, and to remind yourself that even if you are on a stream, you're still having fun, right? You're still here doing what you want to be doing and having a blast doing it. So, because at least if it were me, I would not be able to forget that I was on camera. I just at all. So I would roll with it and maybe crack a few jokes.
See, now we have to have you kind of at some point, Stuart, stop on by to crack a joke or two on stream. So,
oh, don't worry, I'll walk over and point and say, "Hey, man, you missed a great shot over here like 2 rounds ago, but you have to go watch the playback."
Dennis, did you have a comment for that too?
If you're struggling with like the idea of being live to people, I know it can be difficult because I can struggle with that sometimes myself, but it is also like, the people who are watching are not going to be people who don't like Armada, if that makes sense. Or I guess the better way to say that is the people who are watching are going to like Armada. And, obviously the primary purpose is, like I said before, have fun, secondary, win the tournament. But, if you're on stream, then you're also, entertaining people. And I found that, at least with Armada, you don't necessarily really have to change how you play or too much, because, the people who are watching just want to see Armada played really well. And if you're on the table that's being streamed, you will almost certainly be playing Armada very well. So I think that you will, that will come without any effort on the part of those people. So short answer to this question, don't worry about it. just don't worry about it.
For anyone appearing on stream, just know that you do have the option to decline. If you do appear on screen, even with everyone having the best of intentions, crap is going to get talked about one or both players on the stream, especially in regards to when it is a world championship tournament like this. This is not a casual game, which means that in some cases, some players are going to recognize my fleet can't beat the fleet that I'm paired against. That's just how Armada works. There's definitely some element of rock, paper, scissors. So there might be a case where a game pops up that's not going to be very interesting. You as a player on the stream, do not feel pressured that just because you're on the stream that you have to give the audience a show to watch and throw yourself headfirst into the destruction. Play to the best of your ability, play to win, and sometimes playing to win as in order to not get knocked out of the tournament means having a withdrawal strategy that, you know, makes you not necessarily just run into your opponent just to blow up and lose and knocks you out. So, you know, play to win. But at the same time, if you do have the ability to just run at each other and just blow each other up, please do, because that just makes Armada so much more exciting to watch. But when you get to this level of play, especially when it is just two really good players, that those first couple of rounds, and I guess I'm speaking more to the audience who's also going to be watching the stream, is that sometimes there's no action for like the first hour because each player is just so coldly calculating their engagement scenario to best fit what they're doing. You'll often see that action in rounds 3, round 4, and then disengagement taking what they can get. So for players, again, play to win. And for people watching, understand that these players are playing to win, and don't be frustrated if they're accomplishing their strategy to do that. So that's my advice, or my talking.
That's actually a great point to the audience, because some of the best games, all the action is rounds 4, 5, and 6, and it's an hour and a half build up to a 20-minute dice fest. And, you know, again, now, if you're not entertained during that first 2 rounds of nothing going on, that's my fault, or whoever's on camera commenting on the game. So you can feel free to yell at us in the chat instead of the players.
Well, I feel like that jockeying, that deployment, I feel like deployment is one of the most underrated aspects of Armada in terms of watching, but it's in deployment, if you're a veteran player, where you're going to see like those opening plays and strategies about like, are they going to bait? Are they going to charge forward, slow down? Like all that speed janking, like for me, that is the meat and potatoes of Armada, not so much the dice rolling. It's just like, that's something I get excited about, but I recognize that not everyone also is excited about watching ships slowly move at each other for
Derek's favorite part of an Armada game, the objective choice at the beginning.
If I might also direct a comment to the audience. Sorry, I had to run away. My wife was taking a phone call. To the audience, because I imagine some of the watchers of this video will also be watching the stream. To you guys, appreciate the beauty. It's almost like, I mean, I don't know how many people do sports in the Armada world. It's almost like watching a soccer game. You know, it's not all shooting and 3-pointers and exciting moments. There is a lot of thought and preparation, and really just enjoy that for what it is, because man, it's impressive. And if you're a casual watcher and you boot up the stream and you're like, yo, why isn't nobody shooting at each other? Take a second and allow some of the other guys on chat maybe to say, hey, appreciate what cool stuff is happening here that is going to be revealed. As a personal experience, I remember watching, not live, but I watched the battle report of, I think it was an old Worlds final between Nathan Koda and Takra. If it rings a bell from anybody. And there was this moment when Mr. Koda, all of a sudden his home one MC80 started sneaking out from behind the rest of his fleet. And I was like, oh, that thing's been sitting, waiting to slot into that spot for 4 rounds. And I just saw it. And he's thought about that from the beginning. So yeah, when you're watching these, think about some of that stuff that this incredible player has been working on for a while. And then you can laugh at their foibles too, but we all have those. So.
Yep. All right. So here's another question that we're going to, again, throw out to the panel is, what do you guys feel is kind of an interesting difference between playing the game as a player and looking at the game as a judge?
I think for me, from my admittedly limited experience as a judge, you always want to be there. You always want to be a player. You understand your role as a judge is important, but everybody would like to play 12 rounds of Armada. But I can assure you, probably LCQ round 2, I will be so glad when the players get to their table and get handed their choice of objectives and have to pick the objective. I'll be really glad not to have that pressure. Like, I'll be walking around the tables, no pressure on my shoulders, and looking at people trying to figure out, have I messed up already by choosing to go first? Should I really give my opponent most wanted? What trick am I not seeing in my opponent's fleet? And my only responsibility will be walking around. So I'll be just fine with being a judge. And that's I was surprised when I at SLO, I stopped at some point. I'm like, I am not nervous. And all of those guys are trying to rack their brains and not make a mistake right now. And I don't have to do any of that. I had other stress later on at the end of the rounds, but right now it is just looking at people playing the game. And that's a lot of fun.
I think one of the things that's great about that is that, and you all have touched on this in your own way, is that being a judge, you really are that really cool, in-depth, close by, able to watch spectator also. And that's, I think, kind of a fun thing for you guys to be able to do. And I hope that everyone watching this kind of gets to see that you guys are just players, and you're watching the game being played at these levels. And that is just as fun for you to watch the game as it is for the players to be in it, albeit probably not as nerve-wracking during some specific moments of the game.
It gets a bit nerve-wracking when you get called to is this in arc, and then 3 ships are sitting on obstacles and are wobbling just because they're sitting on an obstacle, and then you have a mess of squad. That gets a bit stressful for judges, I think.
I can say what Simon says, or maybe he's not exactly saying this, but part of the reason why I like judging is that I'm not terribly good at the game, so I can be good at the game while not actually having to play it, and I do find that rather enjoyable. But to add a little bit my own thoughts on it, though, I think that judging has definitely changed how I think about the game, and not just even Armada, but just tabletop games in general. Because I kind of started to realize that they're almost like a program, like a computer program, just without the code. I've often described tabletop game development as video game development without the programming. And Armada is especially good at that. And I actually even think that that's part of why it's such a good game, because it's concise. And, most questions have an answer, and I don't have to be like, well, I just kind of have to make a decision right now. Like, I know more often not, this is either correct or it's not. Obviously, there's not no ambiguity. Sometimes there is, but it's very rare. And Armada specifically, I really like that about it.
I don't envy anybody who's playing an Armada. I will be the least stressed of any person there. It's going to be lovely. I'll have my root beer. I'll be walking around and just having a blast, and all you people have to make our decisions. It's going to be great.
For myself, for judge versus, being able to play, is I really echo what Simon and Dennis have said, especially that part of it's just really fantastic to just stop at a table, especially when that player's antagonizing over a choice. And as a judge, you can't say anything, right? Because as a player, I'm excited. I just want to say crap all the time to people. But no, you don't want to do that because you want to do this. It's just so hard to just bite my tongue as a judge and just sit there and silently judge people who make decisions and just be like, that's not a decision I would have made, but I respect their choice.
Okay, here's an opportunity for everyone. I'll go around the room. If anyone has any final thoughts, things they want to mention, to whether it's being a judge, folks coming to AdeptiCon, or anything. Dennis, we'll start with you. Any last final thoughts?
just that I'm excited to do this, and I hope that the people who are going to show up to play are also excited to do this. It'll be a lot of fun. Last year was fantastic, and I know this year will be even better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just happy to be here.
Simon?
Same, just happy to be there. Happy to chat about Armada whenever we have time. Drop by and say hi. I mean, I'll be happy to get taught a lot of things by top players. And if you want to talk about like which bad decision we made and what Karnak thought of that particular move, come to me and I'll spill all the secrets. Because we do gossip, like the judges do gossip. We'll say, well, this person made that mistake. Oh. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to be there. 1 month to go, or just about a month to go.
Stuart?
I have two last thoughts. The first is, I don't know any of you by name, so when you come and introduce yourself, please introduce yourself by your Discord handle. It'll mean the world to me. And as a result, I respond to Stu Bucket, Stuart, whatever works. And my second last parting thought is just for all of you coming, be kind. We will appreciate it immensely if you're kind to us. Your opponent will appreciate it even more. And when you go home after 4 rounds of Armada and you're able to say to yourself, you know, I was a really good player today, and not like I played well, but I was a good, kind player who made this community a better place. We'd love to have you around. So that's my last piece of advice.
Well, I'm going to say don't be kind, because that's bribery. He's asking for bribes just now. We all saw it. It's live on here. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, please be kind. Look out for each other. If you see something on another table, hear comments, just in general, just come talk to us about it. We're not evil people out to make your lives, harder. We want you to have fun. I know that there's a lot of people, and I'm not trying to be like so egotistical, but at a lot of events I go to, I know a lot of people want to stop and talk to me for some periods of time. And I'm never trying to be rude, but oftentimes I just won't have the ability to take a minute right then, or go out with you to have dinner or to have a drink or something of that nature. And as much as I would love to do that, just know that I will always try to at least take a minute to say hi and talk to you. And I love meeting new people. I love meeting people who are here to play Armada and to play a fun game and have a good time. So just understand that I am happy to do that, but I can't sit there and debate why Onagers or Starhawks are bad and why Victory should be the new best game in Star Wars Armada. I agree with you. I just can't talk about it at that time. Thank you.
I think Victories need a better place in Armada, specifically in the Imperial fleet, but that's beside the point. When I bring my Victory, Constantine, Director Izard, and Moralo fleet to Next Worlds, I will let you guys know. All right, once again, on behalf of the entire stream team for Ion Radio, including John, Ryan, Garrett, Adrian, and myself, thank you to all of our judges for participating this evening. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and of course, click the bell to be notified when we go live later this month at AdeptiCon. Thank you once again for watching the Judges panel in our Road to AdeptiCon series. I'm Ken, and we'll see you at Worlds.
Ken, you are muted.
Bless America. Okay. The beautiful part about video is I can edit that out.